here at Lucia Gabriela TV, the place to be where we actually explore and learn everything that we can about love, sensuality, intimacy, relationships, and sexuality. Did I say that again? But anyway, today we have an amazing speaker that we're going to be talking about how boundaries are the key to finding lasting love. Woohoo! Important topic. And our speaker today is Silvy Khoucasian. And before I introduce to her, I'm going to be reading her bio so you can have an idea of her important work that she's doing in this planet that we need her right now. So Silvy Khoucasian is an elite love and relationship coach. She is the founder of the Modern Day Gentleman Guide and Love with Integrity Coaching based in Los Angeles, California. She's known as an empowering love coach who specializes in solution-oriented psychology and has a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. She found her own loving partner, which we had the pleasure to interview him a few weeks ago, by staying true to her own integrity and personal boundaries. Silvy has coached hundreds of successful men and women privately for the past 6 years. Her deep knowledge and understanding of women's desires and a man's authentic nature help her to bring people together based on their core needs. So welcome you, Silvy.
Thank you for that beautiful intro. I appreciate it very much. And I'm so honored. This is my first interview that I'm actually doing, coming out of my cocoon. And it couldn't have been the more perfect topic to do. So thank you.
Yeah, first of all, I'm very honored that I know that you mentioned to me when we talked that you have literally say no to so many opportunities to be interviewed because of the work you do. And I'm so honored that we're here helping you to come into the cocoon for a topic that is truly, truly important in our society, and a topic that I believe is the foundation of all our relationship, not just a relationship within ourselves, with our partner, but also a relationship with a parent, of our siblings, and our children, our work, and every single individual that we interact in a daily life. And as a practitioner myself, that we work, and I was so excited to share that with you, that as a practitioner myself in the field of relationship and sexuality, and even in the aspect of even somatic body work, it is truly important to have these tools that you're going to be sharing with us, this concept, this knowledge, this wisdom, because many in the field, many have really been lacking of it and been destroyed by it. So if we don't have boundaries in our life, it can destroy us. And I was sharing with you before our interview, I had paid blood and tears in my journey to really embody and embrace boundaries. And I'm really open and learning more from you and to put in practice. So I'm so excited. So you are the topic.
Okay, so just kind of take off wherever. Beautiful.
Yes. Just let's just talk about this. How boundaries are the key to finding lasting love.
Beautiful. So I wanted to simply start this conversation with defining a boundary, because it's such a word that has so much buzz around it, but I don't think even for me, until I took the time to really clarify what it means, that it started to click more. So what a boundary is that it's a limit. It's an emotional limit. It's an energetic limit that it creates a container in order to preserve the integrity of our well-being, our spiritual well-being, our emotional well-being, our joy. So just like we have physical boundaries, so if we have an open wound or a scar that hasn't been fully healed and we're probing it and we're not really giving it the nurture and the love and the support that it really needs to heal in a slow and in its own staged way, we actually end up doing more damage to it. So I really want to first and foremost just emphasize how important a boundary is. And if I know a lot of us, including myself, have worked in, spiritual capacity. I've done therapy, I've done coaching, I've done a lot of spiritual work. And through all my practices, as much as I meditate every day and do all the things I can to preserve myself, if I don't express what my boundaries are, and if the people I work with don't articulate what their sensitivities are in a way that they're honored, there's no relationship at all. So I wanted to really lead with that, so anyone that's listening can understand that if they're struggling within their own boundaries, or if they're in a relationship with a partner that's expressing one that they can't maybe understand, what I want to do is help you guys, first of all, understand your own, and then how to be present when your partner is bringing their own boundaries to the relationship. So that's what I really wanted to open up with. And is that clear when I kind of compare the physical and the emotional boundaries and how similar they actually are?
Somebody was sharing with us in a Facebook live streaming that we did before this interview about the question was like, how do we really can honor our self boundaries and our sovereignty? And I love the fact that you're going to be talking about that, and also the boundaries that we have outside of ourselves. So yeah, it's excited. It makes sense.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. So what I want to articulate most of all is that there's a difference between a boundary, and then there's a difference between a defense. So a boundary, it usually takes place around a specific person's unique sensitivity. So every person, no matter what religion we are or what social upbringing we are, every boundary is very personal. It's a very personal experience. So I think what ends up happening in the fog and why there's so much confusion is because we compare our boundaries to somebody else. So what ends up happening is I feel really triggered by something. However, I look around me and I see, well, everybody else is okay with this thing, so there's something wrong with me. So I start to judge myself, and I start to close in on my own experience rather than allowing my own boundary to be true. And the way you know a boundary is crossed is you feel it. You feel it. You start to feel yourself just shutting down, and you want to begin isolating. You want to begin isolating yourself. So if let's say it's in a relationship with another person, you automatically start to feel distant when your boundaries are not being honored. You can't help but start to become pulled away from each other. And so my number one step that I work with people, I work with a lot of men in my practice, primarily with men now. And in my coaching practice, I help men attract a woman as well as maintain a healthy relationship. And what I started noticing was so many of the men that I worked with were numbing out their boundary. They were completely desensitized from the things that were important to them. And when we started working together, we looked at past relationships, and what we did in that experience was helping them realize why it didn't work with certain people, because their boundaries weren't honored and because they weren't expressing them. So in the therapy, in the coaching experience, we articulate the main areas that are they're pretty much their deal breakers. They're like, if I don't have these 3 things, there's no safety in this relationship. I can't even have my sense of well-being. So what happened for me was recognizing how many men are shut down from their own boundaries. And once they were able to express to their woman in a way, and the woman would hear them and honor them, the relationship completely transformed. So for example, I have a man who he's really sensitive with his woman in her relationships with other men. And it's not so much that he wants her to change, completely shut off relationships or, dismiss them, but that's his trauma. Okay? So in order for her to be in a relationship with him, she can't dismiss that. She's not going to completely change and transform her whole life, but when those moments come up in their relationship, that sensitivity needs to be there. That ability to try to understand from a compassionate and loving place, rather than going, whoa, that's not my boundary, so I'm not even going to try to hear it. And that's the biggest disconnect, is that we expect other people to have the same boundaries as us. And it's never true. So, when we're in a relationship, it's when I honor my own boundaries, I'm able to honor yours. Because I'm so respectful and vocal about mine, I am equally respectful and vocal about yours. And until we can do that for ourselves, we truly are not able to be present for someone else's boundaries, because we haven't made that connection and we haven't recognized how important it is, how crucial it is. So I want to bring a couple examples that I think will help different types of scenarios. There's boundaries for everything. I mean, literally, when you dissect what it is, there's people that have really sensitive boundaries with their cleanliness of their home. They need, in order to function, even just being a normal human, they need their space to be respected and honored. So if they're in a relationship with a partner, so if they're in a relationship with a partner that does not at least make effort to try to compromise in that domain, there's a disconnect. So I'm going to just give a bunch of different examples so it starts to link for everyone. When we're having a struggle in a certain area of our life, there's usually a boundary that needs to be reinforced, a boundary that will always help elevate the relationship on some level. So if I communicate something that's coming up for me to my partner, and what I need from my partner in that is for them to acknowledge my experience and to be able to be willing to come up with a middle ground, or to be able to understand that this is something that's very significant for me. It's crucial, because what ends up happening is a lot of relationships that have separated, it's because of it's been a lack of communication of a boundary more than anything else. And most of the clients I've worked with, I remember working with a man and he needed his relationship to be seen by the family, and it was kind of kept private. And rather than him really expressing that, he just kind of allowed his feelings to shut down slowly until he parted. And so when I worked with him, we worked on him vocalizing how important this was and how much he deserved that. And she came in, we worked in a partnership, and she was so supportive and so on board, even though in the beginning it was hard for her to understand, but she started to get this is huge for him. And in order for me to be in a partnership, we're now a unit. When you get into a relationship with a person, your nervous systems are literally connected now. I don't care how spiritual we are, how much we've practiced, how much self-awareness we have, we still are gonna lean on each other. And we need that emotional availability from our partner. And instead of looking at that as a bad thing of like, I want to rely on my partner, I want to, depend on them in times of need, or if like I'm struggling, it's an honor. Like, I want to really help people look at it. It's an honor to be able to support my partner in something that they're really struggling with. That's a big distinction that I really, within myself, that I always go back to. Like, if my partner is coming to me with something they're struggling with, oh my God, you better believe that I want to do as much as I can to help minimize that without, I'm not going to take their pain away, but how can we do this thing without you feeling extremely triggered? Because you won't be able to function in that space. So that's the framework of what boundaries are. There's time boundaries, with respecting if somebody has sensitivities with their time, and they're in a relationship with someone that's very careless about that, and they just don't really make that effort to show that they respect that part of their partner, and just, again, diminish. There's no acknowledgement of that person's experience feeling important. I'm trying to think of some other examples that I wrote down that would really help. What else is a really good one? Jump on in if you have anything that's coming up for you while I kind of get my brain around what else I wanted to share.
What I love, and I take notes, and make sure everybody take your notes.
Take your notes.
I just take every other TV. You gotta take your notes. So I'm really amazed to what you're sharing, because I have also worked with men, and I work with women mostly in like group settings. Like, it's very interesting. Like you said, like I work a lot more of my clients are male, and I have huge groups for women. And it's very interesting that you're pointing it out. Like I never really took in consideration that, because I always felt the women were the one having a hard time with boundaries and not men. Because that's maybe an idea, an illusion I had myself, or what I have seen. And I never really dive into asking. Well, I have seen that men have the boundaries issue, but I really haven't gone as deep as you have gone with working with men and really enforcing their boundaries. So it is very interesting to me, and I thank you for bringing this up because, um, you know, in my awareness, it seems like it has been more of the women that need to embrace their boundaries. But listening to you, it makes me realize that men also have, the struggle, and also maybe that's why the women cannot really connect or deeply with somebody, because if somebody in a relationship or both of them have no boundaries whatsoever, the relationship is a fiasco to begin with. And if the male itself, with women, actually, I feel like we were talking, we're the one that craving the masculine energy, right? Like we're craving for the men to show up, and I feel like if the men are really showing up for themselves and they're showing up within their boundaries, I really feel like it's really empowering for the women to also show up with their boundaries. Did that make sense? It's just very interesting and fascinating. I really thank you for bringing this up more into not just my awareness, but for everybody else awareness about that.
Absolutely, of course. And I always look at, so often, so many relationships, like men shut down, they shut down because a lot of times they're not used to expressing their needs. They're not used to they're simply used to being the container for the woman, being, present for the woman's vulnerabilities and sensitivities. And because like until they speak up and until they embrace what's happening for them, it's really hard. Because think about it, if I'm not getting my needs met, I'm not even expressing a need, right? So I'm walking around like this, I have no needs, I'm not expressing my needs, I'm totally cool, you can do whatever you want, all is well. And then my partner comes to me, do you think I'm going to have the desire to want to be present for theirs? Like if I've been completely self-medicating my own experience and living, very solo, it's really hard to be present for my partner. Or even this, this goes both ways, even for women. For me, for a long time, I really thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy. I was like, I know that I feel boundaries. I can feel every part of me, whether it's my own trauma in the past or not, it doesn't matter. It's still my sensitivity. And until I started being more gentle and more loving and honoring of myself, then I started to vocalize it. And honestly, relationships around me changed with family members, with friends, because I wasn't willing to budge that. I couldn't. It's not even willing. Like my physical body could no longer be in the presence of people that were not willing to understand, hey dude, this is really hurting me. Like I can't function. And go ahead, please.
Yeah, I resonate with you and all that, because that's what I said. Like, I have bled in aspect of really, really owning my boundaries, because like the body stuff, my body will get sick. Like my body will get so sensitive and so sick that if I didn't respect my boundaries, if the person did not honor my no, and they start manipulating, and I allow myself to be manipulated, and just because I have not have like a clear understanding of what I'm standing for, these persons will be able to manipulate whatever they want, and I will just surrender from a place of victimization, or surrender from a place of weakness, instead of like, when you surrender from a place of your true essence, which two different energies. But I would just be like, give up. It's not even surrendering. I would just totally lose it and give up and just be whatever it needed to be and happen. And my body will get so sick like healthy sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I know when I am now respecting my no, and expressing my emotion, expressing how I feel, and expressing from like a very conscious and aware way. My body will be telling me, like, right, my gut will start squeezing, my stomach will be squeezing, and I will feel like suffocated, and then I have to speak up. So
Yes. It's beautiful for you to share. And I just want to normalize that for you. Whatever you've experienced and whoever's watching, whenever you felt that feeling and then you felt wronged or like something's wrong with me, or that I know we've all felt, I want to just normalize how that was just your body speaking and telling you, like, I need to go in a certain stage. I can't, I share this story because, even vulnerability has boundaries. It's when we meet someone and we go on a first date, we don't just share everything, every deep, dark thing about ourselves on a first date. We don't do that. Why? Because we would overwhelm ourselves and the person that's sitting in front of us. So just like a relationship that builds takes time and progression, the people that honor and respect our boundaries, guess what happens? Those boundaries start to get stretched with those people. They start to expand because we have safety with those people. They don't try to push us farther than where we're ready to go. But what happens with people that don't honor where you're at, they shrink. So if you guys, whoever's watching, if there's somebody in your life that you feel really, really close with, that you have that safety with, I want you to really notice, is that somebody that really honors your boundaries? Is that somebody that you can feel energetically is attuned and present to what is happening for you when you guys are together? Because I know for me, that's what it is. Like the people that I have, and I'm very very picky. I have very few friends because that's something that's very important to me. Like the friends that I have, they really, really honor and respect. It's mutual. Like it's not about being right. If I have a friend that comes to me and tells me something hurt them, or this is a boundary, they just don't want me to do this thing, it's done. A lot of people might criticize that and say, well, aren't you going to just kind of be molding your efforts to this person? Isn't that just kind of like, you got to honor the boundary first. You got to start there. And then you build from that point. You help them come out of that place. But if you lead with force and if you lead with a probing way, what ends up happening is that person is now, their well-being comes second to your being right or your version of boundaries, So it's not that you're walking around eggshells or, having things to be different, but it's doing the thing at their pace and helping them through it rather than trying to be right and wrong about it. Our brains can try to rationalize a million different ways out of it, but at the end of the day, if a relationship is if it's at the top and it's at the most, we're going to have to sacrifice some things. I mean, it's not realistic. And I think it's setting ourselves up for failure and a lot of disconnection if we think that we can just do anything however we want, whenever we want. Like, really? We don't go around killing people. Why? Because, we don't do that. It's a really poor example.
Even if we think about it and we have a stupid thought, we don't act on it because we have that self, boundary, right? Like, look, you think of the consequences. We just don't do that. What I love is you said that it's important when we coach it and we work in it's healing realm. We always say you meet your client where they are at.
Yes.
And what you brought up to this conversation is even in the relationship, we meet our partners where they are at, or the people that we interact, we meet them where they are at. This is not just in the business world, but also in the real life world. Like, we honor the boundary first. We build a relationship with that. We start there. And I love that. I love that one of the foundations, because in when I reach out to you, I will explain to you that I love boundaries. One part of my work, too, and it's like it's one of the third aspect, like one of the third aspect of my work. Because first we clear the love canvas, we release, remove, destroy whatever is not serving us, and then we start learning to know who we are. Because before we set a boundary, it's important to purge and let go what is not serving us, because sometimes creating boundaries based on like the past or based on a trauma and coming from a defense. And that's why you mentioned that boundaries totally different than being defense, with way two different energies. And based it on like by purging, letting go and destroying and claiming your stuff and recognizing and remembering who you are, and from that space of being in communion with you, creating the boundaries of that safe container for you. And it just that's for like self relationship, right? And you bring it to a different level. You bring also to a level of relationship where that is the beginning of it. That is the beginning, where we meet everyone where they are in their life, and respect their boundaries and honor the boundaries first, and then we go from there, and then we see how it's changed. Yeah, that was beautiful.
No, and this is the beautiful thing. It's like we just want to know that our partner is able to. We just don't want to feel re-traumatized, basically, because we all have different kinds of trauma. Whether you've been in an earthquake or you've had family trauma, we all carry some kind of different levels of trauma. And so, when I do different kind of exercises with my clients, like for example, I have a couple that one of them is really extroverted and one of them is very introverted. So the introverted partner gets really triggered when they go out, in a big party, because the extroverted person, let's say they're just a lot more social. So one of the exercises I do is, it's not about transforming it and completely breaking it down, where like, no, they don't go out, they don't do this, but it's like a signal. So for example, they're comfortable, but when the more sensitive partner gets overwhelmed, I just have them to let their partner know with like a peace sign on their heart that they're reaching their max, they're hitting their limit. Because we want to tolerate some discomfort with a boundary. Like we want to be able to give our partner freedom to have their experience, especially if it's really important to them. But when we are getting to that point where it's affecting my well-being, okay, let me signal to them, and we just want to know that they're available to us, that they're willing to like meet us where we are in this moment. And those are trust building moments. They're profound. Because if what you're doing is really affecting your partner in a really severe way, and you're not willing to come to a middle ground, that's really not a healthy version of love. That can be that's not healthy at all. One thing that I wanted to help people watching, just understanding how to be with like their partner's boundaries, and you said it perfectly. It's honoring the boundaries that exist first. That's first step. That's it. We accept them. That's where they're at right now in this moment. And then without trying to rationalize it, right or wrong. And then when we do go into a sensitive territory, once we've recognized that it's sensitive to our partner, so the third step would be asking for permission. This is huge, There's no shame. There's such a humbleness. There's such a humbleness with going to your partner with that love and gentleness that, I want to do this thing. I just want to include you in it. I want you to know that your feelings are important to me. And, and I have to say that, Brian has been really good with that, with a lot of my sensitivities, and he comes to me a lot of times and, he asks, and that's a humble experience to do, because we can get so arrogant about certain things, but again, it's like we're partnership now, we're a unit. And then if you're really struggling with understanding your partner's boundary, what I have a lot of people do is I have them do an exercise where I take them back to a boundary of their own. So if they're like having trouble having empathy or compassion with their partner, I have them close their eyes and go into an experience where they felt their boundary really violated. Like somebody was really crossing their boundary. So I have them really go there and feel that moment. And then I remind them, it's not the same, it's not going to be the same exact, your partner's not going to have the same boundaries as you. That would be really weird. Like if you guys were the same person, you're not. And so that helps link, a little bit more compassion and understanding. So they realize, okay, so it's not necessarily, and it's hard, sometimes it's even hard for me to understand when somebody's coming to me with an unfamiliar boundary. At first, I don't know what to do about it because I'm like, whoa, how do I lost the freedom, whoa, But then I take myself back into being compassionate because I know what it feels like to have my boundaries violated. And so that's a really powerful exercise that helps people bridge that gap with compassion. So those are 4 steps I definitely use.
So the first one was to honor the boundary, right?
The boundaries first, exactly where they are, like not judge them, just be with them like empathically, like, wow, I get that. That's really huge for you, and I understand.
And the second one was about the trust building.
The second one is not trying to rationalize whether it's right or wrong, not it's basically is dropping to your heart, feeling into them what they're experiencing rather than trying to, because honestly, we can make everything wrong. We can sit here and make everyone's experience wrong, but in our triggered moments, we need that experience to be validated and it's real for us. It's happening, and both partners need to know that they're going to have those moments, and we want to support our partner to grow out of there. I wouldn't even be doing this interview if it wasn't for Brian. Like honestly, like he's helped me come out of my shell in so many ways. And I know, we come from totally different people. He's more public, I'm more private, but because of his embracing that side and, work through that. So, when you truly embrace your partner's boundary, you can help them grow so much and heal such a traumatic part of their life when we don't try to force them out,
And that's why I was so interested to interview you too, because I have seen Brian for the past, I've been following for the past couple of years, and in the silence, of course, right? And it was interesting to see that, like you said, your partner grows, and it was interesting to see the woman that is next to this man. Like, so even though that you have kept yourself quiet and you have done, the work itself in the relationship and created this beautiful partnership, it is so important to really meet the person who is next to, amazing Brian, right? Like I really was like, yeah, it's so exciting to meet women who are helping men and the work that we're doing. And also to help men to understand different things about ourselves too, so they can help more people. And that's how we collaborate. It's like a whole relationship of collaboration. And that's why I was so excited for you to be here with us, because having the woman next to these amazing men who is doing a lot of changes in people's life, helping people's life in people's life. You know what I mean? It's just an honor to get to know the woman next to the man. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that very much. And likewise, like I said, like I felt very much wanting to have this conversation with you, and I felt you respected my boundaries on the call. And I know that might sound weird to you, but it's so important to me to say that and for you to hear that. When somebody really gets their own boundaries, they're really able to be with somebody's boundaries. I didn't feel pushed. And I think just me saying that on this call is going to be so helpful for people. Like I felt your loving invitation, and I never felt, it just felt very, it felt very open and inviting. And I didn't feel any type of pressure or any kind of strange, side agenda. So that's kudos to you for like really having that clarity when we spoke and just in your presence. Seriously.
No, I love you.
Huge. Boundaries is huge.
It is. And like I said, like I have paid big tears and blood on that one. And I'm saying like not blood because like blood, but it's like a metaphor that I'm putting out there. But it's yeah, boundary is something that we men and women would really need to tap into it and honor ourselves. I was having a conversation with my friend today because we both had been called to be part of an family event, and we both are like, today we've been like, and we want to say no, like, I can't do this. I mean, I'm able to go this much far, even in relationship with family. I can go this far in our creativity, but I can now go beyond it. And that's why we're going to action next, is that not just because of that, of what I experienced this weekend, and we're talking with my friend, but also the people came up with it. It's like, how can we deal with people who are so bossy and so demanding and so into themselves and egocentric and in level that they do not care about your boundaries, and they would take your boundary as an aspect of rejection. And I know that it's like something in the mirror, but sometimes we also have to learn when it's our shit and what is not our stuff, right? And how do we deal with that in the present moment when people do not care and want to really honor your boundaries, and they still push and manipulate and want to get their way?
I mean, my honest answer to that is I have no tolerance, zero tolerance for it, because what ends up happening in that situation is I totally am with you, the whole mirroring thing, and there's always a lesson to learn. And if I'm attracting someone, it's for a reason. But a lot of times we've already learned the damn lesson and we're just sticking around for the same thing. And, if we have trauma in our past, we tend to attract, or we're able to justify a lot more difficult experiences. So there's a lot of things happening in the brain. There's a lot of things. So what ends up sparking in the brain, the neurons that spark when we do attract people like that, it's not necessarily always that they're a mirror. It's that they're familiar. They're familiar from childhood. They're familiar from a past relationship. And so one of two things can happen. Either number one, that person is at least open and willing to, if you're in a relationship, therapy, counseling, are they willing to see your part and to at least take responsibility for some of it? Or if they're just completely closed and it's just one-sided, staying in a relationship with somebody like that is going to make us more confused and completely take you off of your own truth. It's very confusing. I just pull myself away, because sometimes what ends up happening is I need to reflect to really get a sense of which one is the truth. And then once I sit and process it, I can feel it. And I have to be very practical about it, because I am so emotional and sensitive that I want to be there for everybody. I want to help see the good. But if it's coming to the point where they're not willing to own their part in it even a little bit, then there's no relationship. It's like we just want them to change, and they're not open. They're not willing. It's hard. It's sad when that happens, because it's very common. And that's why it's like, I wish every human being would take the time to do therapy or coaching, because honestly, until I did it, I didn't understand a lot of these things. I really didn't. How to communicate with somebody that's coming to me with something that's upsetting them, how to be present for them, how to take responsibility for them, for what I'm doing that's hurting them. Modeling that a few times. And if I'm modeling that a few times and I'm not getting that back, then it's one-sided.
Yes, it's like one type of relationship. And what you said too, like I learned that too, even in my own coaching practice, like working with people, I will be attracting the same, type of clientele until, like you said, it's not just, you said it is not a mirror. It is it's familiar. I was attracting the same people until I got it, and that's when I started, like I said, building more of my relationship with my own boundaries and embracing that, and it felt so good to start just saying no and just saying no. I'm not available. I'm not available. And learning to say no. I don't want to work with you. I'm sorry. It was interesting because even yesterday somebody sent me an email and said, I would love to do a workshop with, in your place. Like, as a host, I could host somebody to do a workshop in my place. And hopefully one day I get the two of you guys to do something here in Florida. And it was interesting to see that for the first time, I think I felt that I got it. Like, I got my boundaries straightforward and still on it, and my emotions, and I gave a crap about about saying no. Like, and I Googled the person, I searched the person, and I read that, and the energy of the site, and no picture, and this person literally posted in there. And when we're talking about sexuality and working in the sexual realms, I mean, I need to see the picture of somebody. I mean, you cannot just tell me you're too private, you're too secret, and for me, it doesn't feel comfortable for me to host somebody that you can't even find a picture online, because, like, who do you know who this person is? Like, I really have to save and guard my people that I bring into my space. So I just didn't feel right. And it was like, I said, I'm sorry, I don't work with these type of people, blah, 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 blah. Have a great time. And this person emailed me back and honored my boundary and said, thank you for saying no and for staying true to yourself. Wow. And I was like, welcome. And I was like, oh my God, it feels so good. In the past, I have never been able to do that.
Wow. That is beautiful.
Taking anyone and like I said, like, learning to know who you are and having the boundary between yourself. And like I said, we also, having the responsibility of host a space, sacred space, and container of sacred space for other people. It's truly important us as facilitators who are doing all this work to have stronger boundaries than ever.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. And you said it perfectly. It's like, we have to go through the contrast. We have to go through the difficult times and all the other stuff to know, because how else are we going to know what our boundaries are until you take that time to self-reflect? So, like, I always encourage, like, my clients to have time alone, meditate, whatever practice really helps them ground into themselves, so they don't get, even when I'm about to, like, do something with work or launching a new product, anything that has to do with something where I have to really be present with my own experience, I usually go away for a long time, whether not literally, but, like, I don't ask people for their opinions. I don't really ask for advice other than the coach or the business coach that I'm working with, because it starts to confuse my own experience and my own truth. And that's another boundary that I've had to discover on my own. Like, I've had to realize that rather than spreading what I want to do out, that doesn't work for me. Whereas with some other people, that's empowering, or that makes them feel good. So there's so many different kinds of boundaries. You'd be amazed. There's a book that I would love to recommend. Can I actually pop it up for people to see?
Yeah.
It's called Where to Draw the Line. And it talks about the very specific, I'll give you a few of the chapters that are in it. It's talks about communication boundaries, parent boundaries, spiritual boundaries, and holiday boundaries, anger boundaries. Even when we're expressing anger to a partner, we need our partner to witness our anger, but we also need to, we can't be physical with them. We have to still do it in a way that they feel safe. So if you have a partner that's afraid of anger, it's okay for them to stand 5 feet away from you, but they're still with you in your anger. But if that's what they need, or like if the argument is starting to escalate and one of the partners is uncomfortable, it's okay for them to be like, hey, wait, let's just pause for a minute. Moment to moment boundaries, literally. Every moment we're engaging what is, bringing us more connection, or what is bringing us more, what is really going to harm our relationship and both of our well-being. it's very juicy stuff, and you can tell I'm very passionate about it because it's transformed my life, truly.
Yes, and it really does. Like tapping into boundaries and honoring your boundaries is really ah just
Yeah.
amazing. I can just feel the energy of like honoring just the word itself of boundary, really transformational. And at the same time, um, what I'm tapping from you, like you're working with your energy and you're working with sensing, like I really feel that the power of that you know that you put in practice in your coaching practice and working with your clients is also that you help them to really tune in into the inner wisdom and in the body, because that's what pretty much feeling for me, because that's the way I work also. Like, we can have amazing book which give us the logistic and the guidelines, like it make us realize in a more logical level, right? Like a more mindset level and contextual level. That was the word I wanted to say. But also what I'm feeling from you is that you also hope and to teach people to get into and feel the body, because the way that you process is just the greatest way to actually tap into, okay, what it feels right for me, what it doesn't feel like, what it feels creative, what feels expansive, what feels contracting, and what it feels in this alignment. So I love that you bring in both of those approaches into sharing the power of boundaries into our conversation.
Yes. One thing I want to share, because I know you work with sexuality a lot, when the boundaries of the relationship are really honored and they're respected, that's when sexuality blooms in a relationship. That's when, like, that's our free space of like, okay, now we don't need to be thinking about like, am I doing this or this, and that's where like the flower can blossom and really explode in the relationship, because that container has been created and preserved and really honored. And so your work on sexuality is it's like they're very much intimately related, boundaries and sexuality.
Yes, if you don't, that's why I'm saying, like, you coming out of your cocoon. I'm also coming out of my cocoon in the realms of sexuality, because I did not feel comfortable and ready yet to share what I'm sharing with everybody about the experience of exploring their sexuality in a deeper level and heal the emotional traumas and sexual traumas, because I was working on my boundaries, my own self growth in boundaries for a couple years. And that's why in the beginning I started with love coaching, and little by little, by little, it would be sharing this, but I would have other people holding the space and the container for other people to do the practice. And I mean, I wasn't ready yet, but now I feel like, I'm mastering more of my life, my love, my relationship, my sexuality. Thank you to recognizing my boundaries. And I tell you that the word boundary didn't come into my awareness and my mind and even my vocabulary, like, until maybe 3.5 years ago, which is incredible because I'm like 36, and like you would think, right? Like, whoa. But, it was just surprising to me to see that in my vocabulary stuff, I didn't have that word. I didn't have that concept. I didn't have that. And that's why I'm passionate to share. And I was so excited to share your wisdom with our community, because I would have loved to have somebody opening me up to this wisdom, to help me to realize. I know that I went through my whole journey of exploration for my self growth, for me to be able to help people in their breakthroughs because of my breakthroughs, but it was painful. So why I'm sharing this with you is because I would like people to really not oversee, not just avoid the boundaries, but have an understanding and have a awareness of it.
Yes.
That's what I'm passionate about.
Thank you for sharing that, and your heart pours out when you speak, woman. And you're right. I mean, until we're taught this, and I wish every child their hand was held and was taught just to say no. I mean, with so many things of just, if we could have still gone through the pain, but at least had people to really show us this very important part of our emotional well-being. So it's an honor. It's my pleasure. And I mean, I'm sure this is going to be one of many other conversations I will share with you about boundaries.
Yeah, that's awesome. So before we wrap it up, I want to recap the step of the boundary that Silvy has shared with us in a very beautiful way and practical. She shared 2 practical tools and exercises for people to really honor more of the boundaries and other people's boundaries. So the steps are honor the boundary first in a relationship with the other person, meet them where they are, and then you can build your relationship from that space, that sacred container, by honoring them where they are and honoring them the boundaries. So then the second one is not trying to rationalize it, drop into your heart, get out of your mind, get into your heart. And the third step is ask for permission. And I really, 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 really love that one, because when especially a man come and ask permission,
it's so sexy, right?
Juicy. Yeah, it is juicy to me. Like I always even even share with my clients and my communities, my circles, like, just because you're in a relationship or you're sexual with somebody and you have a partnership, right? A sexual partnership, doesn't mean just because I'm a sexual partner with you, you're just gonna come to me and just have sex with me. You gotta ask permission for it. May I? Like, one of the practices that I love to enforce is, can I kiss you? May I kiss you? And like, what's the intention of the kiss? What is the intention of the love making? May I, ask permission? And then even before, in the intimate aspect of sexuality, like, may I penetrate you? It's just so empowering, and it's so beautiful, and so, I don't know, it makes a woman feel more safer than ever when a partner asks permission. So, asking permission is something that should not be overlooked and not be, taken for granted. I didn't get the fourth one. So if you want to express the fourth step, the last step, or it was just 3?
The fourth one was, if you're having trouble, like bridging some sort of compassion or understanding with your partner's boundary, like if you're having resistance, for example, to what they're bringing, like you just can't seem to do it, or you're stuck in your head about it, you're trying to rationalize it. I always try to bridge people I work with to a situation where they feel their boundary is not being respected. So whether it's closing their eyes and just having them think about a moment that they felt really, violated, and or just really, really uncomfortable, where they were forced to do something that was really, really hard for them. And so then to link it to that experience. So whatever the other person is telling me, while I don't necessarily understand it with my brain, I need to accept it as their truth. It's not my right, it's not my place to try to change their mind, because that's re-trauma. Like, when you work with trauma in general, and you work with people's sensitivities and things that are in the body, like when we have a body response to things, and we try to pull people out of them, or we're just re-traumatizing them. So that fourth part is probably the most important, in like a different way of doing it practically. So if you're not with your partner, if you could just do it when you're, after you've had a difficult conversation, but just know that we all have boundaries. We all do. Some of them are more expressed and normalized in our culture. For example, we know that if we're out on the street, we don't just go up to people and just start touching them. Why? Because that's a boundary that has been culturally put in place. Now, if you're in the Middle East and you're, a group of men are constantly very affectionate with each other in the Middle East. So that's another cultural boundary that's in place. So I just try to help people really bridge understanding, and helping them understand that their backgrounds completely brought them to a different place. Mm-hmm. So everyone's different. We all have different boundaries.
I love that too. That's the highlight of the conversation today, that we all have different boundaries and we have to honor every one of us where we are. And I'm like looking down because I'm reading some of my stuff. So that was one of the exercises that I was going to share about that, that you mentioned about the boundaries and make you feel within yourself and feel be empath. But the other exercise that for all of you who are in relationship, my amazing subscribers and friends and those who are looking, is that when you're in a relationship and you have boundaries and your other partner has a boundaries and you compromise and then you're really working things out, have the peace sign, exercise where you can tell your partner, hey, I am onto here. I am done with this. I know you like rock and roll and all that heavy music, but getting out of my nerve just before you explode. So really important to have the peace sign.
Rather than talking and trying to say it with words, because it's hard sometimes. We're flooded. This makes it so much easier.
I love that. Like, I love that. I love peace sign. You know that now before the witch comes out.
Awesome.
I really love it. Thank you. I thank you so much for sharing very practical tools for our viewers to really stepping into the boundaries, honoring the boundaries, but also honoring other people's boundaries. And when it also comes to when people are not really relating and don't want to honor your boundaries, we are in a power to respond, and we have the responsibility within ourselves to really feel within ourselves what is okay for us and what is not. And really, I invite every single one of you who are viewers to step, be within you and honor yourself so much and love yourself so much so you can speak up where you really feel and don't tolerate other people's manipulations or, way to pursue you. Allow yourself to really feel. And the more you love yourself, the more you stay in your truth. So if you want to attract the most amazing relationship in your life, the more you love yourself by embracing your truth, the more you're going to attract people who respect you for who you are, respect your boundaries, and honor you and appreciate you and accept you for who you are. So that's pretty much what I have. You want something else to say before we go, Silvy?
I think you nailed it. I mean, the most important thing is, like, I hope people take the practical things, because I know it's easy for us to get stuck in just the contextual understanding. Is like, I just really hope people just begin practicing them in small ways, where with people that they feel really safe with, people that you guys feel really safe with. Certain ways to say no, or just to if it's hard for you, practice with people that you have a good relationship with first, and then once you do that, you'll start to feel more and more comfortable with people that are outside that. So yay!
We did it! Thank you so much, Silvy, for your wisdom, your passion, and I cannot wait to have another interview and about another topic of more reinforcing boundaries in the future. I appreciate you and Brian, and thank you so much. So we're going to be saying bye to our community. You can say bye.
Wonderful. Bye, guys. Thank you for joining. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. If you like this video, please share with all your friends and everyone you think they need this. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get updates to all the amazing speakers that we're bringing into Lucia Gabriela TV, the place to be. We want to learn everything about relationship, love, intimacy, sexuality, and sexuality. That just So thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy your beautiful, amazing day. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.